Uh, okay, so welcome to our workshop we call of college admission and high school planning, held by UCAFM. If you don't know what UCAFM stands for, it is United Chinese Americans at Fargo-Moorhead area. We're very honored to have 5 graduates with us today as our speakers. They are Joanna Lin, Alan Wu, Cindy Wang, Jacob Shelver, and Marvin Tian. So each one of them will focus on a couple of topics and also introduce themselves briefly in the beginning of their presentation. So I will not waste more time here, but to say a big congratulations to all of them for entering their dream college and having graduated in such a special year of 2020. Okay. Staff on service today is Dr. Wulong. He has been providing strategic advices throughout the entire planning process. And then Chunju, who is the organizer of the entire event, and will also be our moderator to coordinate the effort, coordinate the Q&A section. And Jun that is our technical support, and myself. Okay, my last slide. Our event today will be divided into 2 sections, presentation for about an hour, and Q&A for another hour. In between, with a very short break, maybe for about 5 minutes. And we like to ask each one of you to stay muted, especially during presentation, and until you have a question to ask during Q&A section. And this is not to disturb the speakers. And also, in terms of video sharing, you have the option to share or not share, but the background, it doesn't matter if it's a video or image, please keep it, please make it appropriate. Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to transition screen sharing to our first speaker, Joanna Lin.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Joanna Lin, and I'll be talking about the specific college application process. So a little bit about me is I graduated this year from Davies High School. I'll be attending the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. And my major is through the Huntsman Dual Degree Program. So I'll be getting 2 degrees, one in business, one in international studies, and I'll have a Spanish language focus. Okay, so early decision is one of like 3 major application types, the others being early action and regular decision. I'll be focusing on early decision since that's what I applied using. As a summary, early decision is a binding application choice, which means that you're guaranteeing that if the college accepts you, you will for sure attend that college. It usually has an earlier deadline of around November 1st. This kind of depends on each school. And the results, you find them out earlier as well. So you find out about mid-December. And early decision isn't offered by all colleges. Some of them might just have early action or regular decision. And the results are you're either accepted, hopefully, deferred, which means they'll evaluate your application during the regular decision pool, or you're denied. So for reasons to apply early decision, the biggest piece is to do your research. So, for example, if there's a unique program at the college that really interests you, or if you're 100 or like 99% sure that you would be very happy at that university. For an example, for me, I applied early decision to Wharton UPenn because of the Huntsman program, because it had everything I wanted. I could continue my interests in language and business, get 2 degrees, and still graduate in 4 years, and be able to study abroad. And not only that, if you're looking at specific programs or majors within a college, it's also important to consider the college itself. So whether or not you like the campus, the size, and the location. Another reason, which is not as important as the first reason, but it does give you a slight competitive edge, because basically colleges will feel better about accepting you because they want to increase the ratio of students who are accepted to their college and end up actually enrolling. And in this case, you're guaranteeing that if they accept you, you will enroll. Another reason is that if you're accepted, you get to relax. So mid-December, after that, I didn't have to worry about pretty much anything, and I just had the best time, other than COVID. So reasons against early decision, basically just if you're unsure about what school you want to go to, you want to keep your options open, yeah. Okay, so as a timeline, this is kind of personal preference, but I do think it's really, really helpful to avoid testing the fall of your senior year if possible. So for example, junior year, I took, I guess, the bigger test, ACT, SAT, in one of the subject tests. And then the fall of my senior year, I took 2 SAT subject tests. But I think writing college essays and scholarship essays is really tiring, kind of horrible, and it takes a lot of time and energy. So it's really good to kind of keep fall semester open so it's as least stressful as possible. Also, the summer before your senior year, that's probably a time for you to start your Common App essay, which is the essay you send to pretty much all of your schools, and just to do research on colleges, which ones you want, their requirements, and deadlines. The rest of it is really personalized. For me, I spent about 1 month on UPenn's or Huntsman's essays, and then after that, I did about 1 to 2 colleges per week. But in my case, I didn't really have to apply to that many colleges or write that many applications because I found out earlier that I got accepted to Huntsman. Another aspect to consider in your timeline is an optional arts supplement, or this is called the optional arts portfolio usually. So basically, a lot of colleges will allow you to submit like an excerpt of your talent in any area of the arts. So it can be instrumental music, it can be dance, painting, composing. And I submitted a music supplement for clarinet to UPenn since music was kind of a big part of my application. But honestly, I don't really think it made that much of a difference. And unless you're exceptionally skilled, you're majoring in it, or you focus your application on that skill. And kind of something to mention is that the supplement can hurt you. So if, for example, your accomplishments seem better on paper than they actually are with the different excerpts, that can hurt you. Okay, so then here's just a couple things about me, maybe that just some different opportunities that I experienced, and feel free to ask me questions about this later. A big thing was the National Youth Orchestra that I participated in last summer. It's amazing. And so there's basically 3 different branches. There's the National Youth Orchestra, NYO2, which is for a slightly younger age group, and also NYO Jazz. So what it is, it's an all expenses paid music program where, for example, for NYO2, we traveled, it was for 3 weeks. We traveled to New York, trained. We then flew down to Miami, where we trained and performed. And then we flew back down to New York City, where we performed in Carnegie Hall. And like I said, it's all expenses paid. For NYO2, it's basically a national tour. NYO and NYO Jazz will often do international tours. So for example, I think last year, NYO, they visited like 6 or 7 cities in Europe where they performed. It's really an amazing experience, super fun. The people there are so interesting, they're so talented. But it also is a very, very competitive program. I auditioned my freshman year and my junior year, and I was rejected my freshman year. And for example, for clarinet, there's 3 total spots available in NYO2. So it is it's a little bit on luck too, but because it's competitive, it's also very like prestigious in the eyes of college admissions. So it can be a really big boost if you're looking into, if you're interested in music throughout high school. Another thing to add, if you play piano or harp, they, depending on the year, depending on the music, they will offer positions for piano. So if you're playing piano and you're interested maybe in experiencing this, this can also be something to look into. Some other music extracurriculars just that I was involved in, the Fargo-Moorhead Area Youth Symphonies. I was clarinet section leader and involved with the board of directors. And a competitive music experience is the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony Orchestra Concerto Competition. So I was the winner, I think like 2 years ago, 2018. And if you win, you have a chance to solo, perform as a soloist with the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony Orchestra. Some other things, if you're interested in, last year I founded a 501c3 nonprofit called Resonate, which basically has the mission of bringing quality music education, performances, and inspiration to rural areas in North Dakota and Minnesota. And then I was also vice president of Spanish Club. I really like languages, and vice president of Key Club, which is like a volunteering high school club. Some other random stuff that you guys might not be aware of, there's something called the National Calvin Coolidge Scholarship. Basically, it's an there's 2 levels to the scholarship. The big scholarship is you get all 4 years of your college completely paid. And then there's like 3 or 5 people named for that nationally. And then the next level is there's 100 senators who receive a smaller scholarship. So I was named a senator, and it's based on your essays and your transcript. And it's just a really interesting experience. We went to Washington, D.C., all expense paid for like almost a week. You meet a lot of really interesting people. For example, I know someone who's going to Wharton, actually, who I met through Calvin Coolidge. And so if you're interested in public policy or just interested in going to college for free, this is something that you can look at when you're a high school junior. Another thing specific to the University of Pennsylvania is they have they're kind of known for their dual degree programs or specialized programs. So they have a couple programs where you can get 2 degrees in 4 years. So I'm in Huntsman. So I get a degree from the Wharton Business School and the College of Arts and Sciences. And then for the dual degree programs, there's usually a class size of about 40 to 50 students per year, a smaller community, kind of like a closer alumni network, and you get to specialize earlier in your undergrad. Another really popular one is called the Jerome Fisher one, or the M&T program, which is where you get a degree from Wharton, often in business management, and a degree from the School of Engineering, some people will do like CS or just engineering, stuff like that. Some other programs at UPenn, they have like a nursing and healthcare management dual degree program. They have like a 7-year accelerated dental program. So if you're looking into medical school, those are some opportunities for you. Okay, so that's basically it. That's what I have to say about the college application process. It's basically just wrapping up everything you've done and trying to make it sound as good as possible, because by this time, there's not really that much more you can do to boost your application. It's more just about the presentation. So I wouldn't really worry about the details of applying if you're not a senior or an upcoming senior, and instead just kind of take some time to reflect on your experiences. College essay writing is really just reflection, sitting down and thinking about what's impacted you, how you've changed throughout high school, and you really just try and put as much of that into your college essays as possible. So yeah, you can do it.
I suppose I'm going next. Hello, everybody. My name is Alan Wu. I will be covering scholarships and a lot of other random topics. I'm going to be going pretty fast because I have way too much content. Oh, geez. How do I present? Okay. There we go. About me. My name is Alan Wu. I'm same year as Joanna. I graduated from Davies last year. I'll be going to Yale next year. And my major and minor are undecided, but it's probably CS. Okay. Here are all the scholarships I earned throughout my senior year. They total to about $9,000. So it's actually pretty profitable. I'll talk about this later. All right, so why are scholarships important? Here's the thing. You don't have money and college costs a lot of money. If you look at this graph right here, the median income of the US, like average family, is basically the same, but then tuition skyrockets. So basically you're not going to be able to pay for college very easily. So this is where scholarships come in, because scholarships can offer a large amount of money that can help pay your tuition. Now there needs to be a really important distinction to be made, which is merit versus need-based scholarships. If you're planning to attend like a top school, like one of the Ivy League schools, chances are if your family has a decent amount of money, you're not going to get any direct scholarships from those schools, simply because like all of the students that are going to Ivy League schools or like top schools like MIT or Stanford, all are like very good. So it's really difficult for the schools to like give specific scholarships to individual people. So like all of the scholarships given by top schools are only to like families that don't have the money to pay for college. However, if you go a little down the list to schools like U Michigan, U Minnesota, these schools actually do give a lot of aid to students based on their academic performance and so on. So if you're young right now, the number one scholarship you should focus on is the National Merit Scholarship, because it is like the first one that you'll ever come across. It's based on a test known as the PSAT, which you take during junior year, and the top 1% of scores based on per state are able to apply for the scholarship. Since we're in North Dakota, people aren't so great at test taking, so it's not too difficult. And if you're able to apply, about half of the applicants are able to receive the scholarship. The base amount is $2,500, which is pretty decent, but you can also get a full right to select schools. I don't have a select list, just Google it later. Also, like one example of this is the U of M, which gives like $10,000 per year to everybody who gets this scholarship as well. That's $40,000. That's a lot of money. So yeah, definitely look into the scholarship. There's also a lot of national level scholarships that give a ton of money. The Coca-Cola Scholars Programs awards $20,000 to like 150 students. There's the AXA Achievement Scholarship, which awards like up to $10,000 to like 50 students. There's a couple sites I found online that list a ton of like huge scholarships. These scholarships are generally based on like applications, so they're really similar to your college applications. If you're doing your college applications, you might as well apply for these as well. They're basically the same thing. There's also like scholarships based on competitions, such as like the Google Science Fair, the International Science Engineering Fair. There's also like there's tons of essay contests as well. And another example of this that you might be more familiar with is Math Counts. So basically these are like national competitions that test a specific skill and give huge amounts of money to the winners. Like ISEF gives like $75,000 to the winners. But the problem here is that we're in North Dakota and we don't have resources. So it's really difficult for us to win these huge competitions. I don't think your chances are great. Sorry. Okay, so since you can't really get national level scholarships, you can look into local scholarships. I'm not going to list any here because like these scholarships changed from year to year, so it's better to look at like the schools that offer them. Here's the site from Davies, there's another site from North that lists like scholarships from year to year. You can look at that later. So basically these scholarships, far less people apply, so it's far easier to win them. And like for the more obscure scholarship, there's probably only going to be like 4 to 5 people who apply, so you have a far higher chance of winning these scholarships, but like the dollar amounts are much smaller, but they're still like pretty good scholarships for you to invest your time in. So yeah. Okay, the bottom line here is basically you should do as many scholarships as possible. So I was awarded about $9,000 from scholarships with like 90 hours spent on scholarships. That's $100 per hour. That's pretty good. If you're going to work at Walmart, you're going to get about $10 per hour. That's not so great. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about admissions a little bit. So Joanna took the route of early decisions, but however, there's also a different route, which is the early action, like college strategy, basically. This is for people who really have no idea where they want to go for college, which is like me. I like during fall this year, I really had no idea where I wanted to go for college. I said I wanted to go to MIT, but honestly, if I was offered like something if I was offered to go to MIT right now, I don't even know if I would want to go. So yeah, if you're like me and don't really have a single program or school that you want to go to, then you should definitely apply for early action. There's 2 different types of early action as well. There's restricted early action where you're only able to apply for a single school early action, but even if you get accepted, then you could still get to like a different school you're accepted during the regular round. And there's also like just totally non-binding early action, which is the one I did, which allowed me to apply to a total of 6 schools early. There's a couple advantages here. So the first one is that you're able to apply for like safety schools early, such as for me, that was like U Minnesota. There's also NDSU, but I don't want to put NDSU on here. So yeah, that's why. So like if you get into a safety school early, that's really good for you because then you at least know you'll be going to a college and not like, and have like that feeling of safety. However, like if you're doing early decision, you get rejected early, then you really don't have that feeling of safety. It also lets you like get started with your applications earlier, and we're all human. We all have a problem with procrastination. So it's always great to get started on your applications earlier. And furthermore, it allows you to apply to like a ton of schools early and just like basically figure out what you want. I'll talk about, actually Joanna already talked about the Common App, but the main point here is that like, here's a couple of strategies that you should take on the Common App. First of all, fill everything out. If you don't fill everything out, A, you look lazy, and B, you look like you didn't do anything during high school. Second of all, you want to brag during your Common App. Like there's so many talented students across the entire country. This is no time to try to be humble. You want to put literally every single one of your achievements because you want to compete. Like there's no reason to try to be humble in your Common App. If you want to be humble, do that on your essays. Furthermore, you want to build a narrative around your extracurriculars. I think Jacob and Marvin will talk about that later. So let's skip that. There's also the Common App essay, which Joanna also talked on, but I really need to stress the importance of this because this is the single essay that is sent to literally every single school you apply to. You want to spend a ton of time on this. Start in the summer before your senior year. Yeah, it's important. There's also other applications, such as the coalition application, which I didn't do, so don't ask me about it. For the schools in California, like UC Berkeley, UCLA, they don't really take applications to the Common App, so you have to apply through the University of California application. The same goes with MIT. The main point here is that like all of these schools have basically the same application, they just have a different formatting, but don't underestimate the amount of time that it takes to fill them out because it is still a lot of information. Like it'll take a similar amount of time to fill out all these other applications as it does to fill out the Common App. All right, let's talk about standardized tests, which is the ACT and the SAT. So like one huge misconception is that like SATs and ACTs are becoming less important. This is not true. Like if you look at this chart right here, like a lot of schools are making SAT like less required in the future, but that's not what this chart says, but whatever. The point is that like a lot of schools are making SATs optional, SAT and ACT optional in the future, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're less important because if you look at like the average test scores for all of these schools, they're actually going up. Like the main reason that schools are making tests optional is because they just want more people to apply, which drives down their yield rate, which makes them look better. So yeah, tests are still extremely important. Now, like the biggest question people ask is like, what's a good score? The real answer here is that absolutely nobody knows. If you ask the admission officers, they're not going to give you a hardcore answer. This is my guess. Like I'd say that you should try to aim for at least a 33 on the ACT or 1500 on the SAT. So how do you prepare for the SAT or ACT? Number one is practice tests. Practice tests are by far the best way to prepare. And the other thing is school. This is specifically true for like English and math, which is basically like all of the content on SAT and ACT are taught throughout your school classes. So if you pay attention in school, you'll probably be fine. However, you can't really study for like reading or science because they really test like your comprehension skills. So if you want to study for those, just take a lot of practice tests. There you go. All right. Wait, I went way faster than I was planning to do. So I guess I'll talk about my extracurriculars a little bit. The only extracurricular I think here that like nobody else is going to talk about is like debate. I did debate throughout like high school, and I think debate is actually a really good activity to go into, but if you're going to go into it, you have to go into debate really early because otherwise you're really going to fall behind. I think the biggest advantage of going into like debate, speech or whatever is to just like improve your speaking skills in general. I didn't do speech, that's why my speaking skills suck. Okay, let's talk about my extracurriculars outside of North Dakota. So like Joanna also touched on this with like NYO2, but like I did a couple of these as well, such as the Honor Summer Math Camp, which I went to during my freshman and sophomore year summer, as well as the summer science program during my junior year summer, and the Minnesota Debate Institute, which I went to like freshman, sophomore, and junior year summer as well. I listed Interlochen. I never went there. Philip went there. I just listed it as another option as like summer programs you can go to. There's a couple benefits here. So the first benefit is that it helps you distinguish as a student from North Dakota, because the problem, like mainly a lot of the students in North Dakota really look the same to a lot of colleges because like we don't really have that many opportunities in North Dakota. So like everybody does good in school, everybody has decent extracurriculars, so you all look the same. However, if you have stuff from outside of North Dakota, it really helps you distinguish you as a student as well as an applicant. Furthermore, it helps you like meet a ton of people outside of North Dakota. Like specifically from the Honor Summer Math Camp, I know like 10 people who are going to MIT, 5 people who are going to Harvard. And from the Summer Science program, I know like 7 different people who are going to Yale, which I'll be meeting next year. So yeah, it's really important. You'll help like establish a ton of connections outside of North Dakota. You also like understand the level of competition beyond the US, which is like beyond North Dakota, which is like extremely intense. And it really like helps you put college admissions into perspective and helps you like write your essays and all that. Here's a list. Here's a link to like all of the like the good summer programs that you can apply to. One final point here is that like you should only go to programs that you can apply to. If you don't need to apply to a program, chances are the program's main purpose is to make money, and therefore it's not going to be a very good program, and therefore like you shouldn't go to it. So only go to programs that are competitive and have a good application, because those are the only programs that are actually aimed at helping students and providing them with a good experience. I don't have a final message, so yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Joanna and Alan. Our third speaker is Cindy, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, but she did prepare a video for us to share. Just a second, I'm trying to share my screen. Okay, here we go.
Hello, my name is Cindy Wang, and today I will be talking to you all about AP classes. A little bit about me. As you can see on the screen, I am a graduate of Fargo North. I was involved in many activities, some of which were cross-country, tennis, debate, speech, student council, knowledge bowl, and science olympiad. I will be attending Dartmouth College this fall, planning to double major in computer science and economics. In high school, you will have the chance to take AP classes. AP stands for Advanced Placement, and as the name suggests, these classes are more advanced. They are tougher and faster paced than normal high school classes because you're learning at a college level. With this in mind, taking these classes can be very beneficial. They provide a GPA boost so you can actually get above a 4.0 GPA so long as your grade remains an A, which helps with class ranking. At the end of the year in May, you also have the chance to take the AP exams for the AP classes you're in. The AP exams are standardized exams that measure how well you've mastered the content and skills of a specific AP course. By taking these exams, you have the chance to earn college credit, depending on the college you attend and the score you get. Scoring on AP exams is based off of a 5-point scale. A score of 1 would be the equivalent of failing the college class, whereas a score of 5 would be the same as getting an A in the college class. A 5 is the highest score you can get on these exams. Some colleges will give you college credit for high scores on these exams, but more elite colleges will often not. Make sure you do your research. Getting college credit for these classes can be beneficial because 1, it saves time in college so that you can graduate sooner, and 2, you can also save a lot of money. Now I'm going to be going over the different categories of AP classes and give an overview of all the possible AP exams and AP classes. At the end, I'll talk about course load and planning for 4-year coursework. I'll also go over AP Scholars Distinction and possibly taking courses at local colleges along with standardized exams. The AP Capstone Diploma program is listed, but to my best knowledge, there aren't any high schools in our area that offer this program. Essentially, it's a 2-year program based on AP Seminar and AP Research. AP Seminar is the prerequisite for AP Research. AP Seminar helps you develop and practice the skills in research, collaboration, and communication. You'll investigate topics in a variety of subject areas, write research-based essays, and design and give presentations both individually and as part of a team. AP Research builds off of what you learned in AP Seminar and allows you to deeply explore an academic topic, problem, or issue of your interest. You design, plan, and conduct a year-long research-based investigation to address a research question. If you're interested, you can certainly talk to your school principals or counselors and ask them to join the program. If you really like the arts, College Board offers 5 different AP courses that you can take. AP Music Theory, AP Drawing, AP Art History, AP 3D Art and Design, and AP 2D Art and Design. For English, there are 2 classes you can take. AP English Language and Composition, often called AP Lang, is where you'll learn about the elements of argument and composition as you develop your critical reading and writing skills. In AP English Literature and Composition, often called AP Lit, you learn how to understand and evaluate works of fiction, poetry, and drama from various periods and cultures. You'll read literary works and write essays to explain and support your analysis of them. This is one of my favorite classes because you get to read a ton of novels for fun. For history and social sciences, the subjects with stars at the end are the classes offered by Fargo Public Schools. Those would be AP Euro, AP Human Geography, AP Macro and Microeconomics, AP Psychology, AP US Government, and AP US History. As their names suggest, AP Euro covers European history. AP Hug focuses on exploring how humans have understood, used, and changed the surface of the Earth. It's a very interesting class and one of the easier AP classes, which is why freshmen typically take it. Macro and microeconomics deal with different scales of the economy. AP Psych focuses on behavior and mental processes. AP US Government teaches you about the political system and culture of the United States. And AP US History allows you to study the cultural, political, and social developments that have shaped the US from 1491 to the present. Next, Math and Computer Science. For AP Calc, Fargo Public Schools only offers the AP Calc AB class, not the BC. What I recommend is taking the AB class, but signing up for the BC exam. It'll require more effort on your part because you'll have to self-study a couple of BC topics, but about 60% of the BC exam covers the exact same topics as the AB exam. Plus, when you take the BC exam, you get an AP subscore. AP Calc is one of my favorite classes that I have ever taken, so I highly recommend it. If you choose to take the AB exam, but you still want to take AP Calculus BC, you can also take classes at local colleges. What I did was that I took a Calc 2 class at NDSU, which sort of tied into the concepts that will be tested on the AP Calculus BC exam. Frankly, you don't need to do this because, again, 60% of the BC exam is the same as the AP exam, so self-studying is pretty simple, but the option is always there for you if you want it. AP Statistics is also a very fun class. Personally, I think it's the easiest AP class you can take. The exam isn't difficult at all, and you get to perform a lot of fun experiments throughout the school year. Fargo Public Schools also offers AP Computer Science classes. I didn't take these classes, but I've heard that they're very interesting and you get to do a lot of cool projects. For the sciences, all of these classes are offered except for AP Physics 2 and the AP Physics C classes. If you're interested in those three classes, you will have to self-study for those exams. AP Bio and AP Chem were another two of my favorite classes just because you get to do a ton of amazing experiments/research and because the topics that you learn about are absolutely fascinating. AP Environmental Science allows you to take part in laboratory investigations and fieldwork, such as going to the Red River and examining the soil. AP Physics 1 is purely algebra-based and teaches you about Newtonian mechanics, mechanical waves and sound, and introductory simple circuits. The laboratory work that this class has is insanely cool. I would say that this class has the best experiments when it comes to tying together concepts. Finally, for AP World Languages and Cultures, I would recommend taking these exams senior year, especially if you take 4 years of a language, which is something I also highly recommend. FPS doesn't offer AP language classes, but if you take 4 years of a language, that honestly should prepare you for these AP exams. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about the AP Scholars Awards. There are certain requirements you have to meet to be granted these awards. First, the AP Scholar Award is for students who receive scores of 3 or higher in 3 or more AP exams. AP Scholar with Honor is for students who receive an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 4 or more of these exams. AP Scholar with Distinction is for students who receive an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. Finally, the National AP Scholar Award is for students who receive an average score of at least 4 on all AP exams taken and scores of 4 or higher on 8 or more of these exams. Again, all of this information can be found on the College Board website. For course load and planning, this is just a brief layout of what I would recommend. I recommend taking 4 years of a language and 4 years of a music, just because colleges like to see that you're consistent with classes and topics that interest you. Freshman year, I would recommend taking AP Human Geography and AP Statistics, just because those are 2 of the easiest classes that you can take. Same with the AP exams. Sophomore year, AP Euro is typically taken by sophomores. But I also recommend taking AP Psychology and AP Environmental Science, just because those 2 classes are also fairly simple. AP Bio, I recommend taking just because it's very interesting. And if you take biology freshman year, you can certainly just jump into the AP exam. Of course, you don't have to take the regular biology class before taking AP Bio. I didn't, and I did just fine in the class. Ultimately, it's up to you. For junior year, the English class that you take is typically AP Language, but you also often take AP US History. I also recommend AP Calculus and AP Chemistry and Physics, just because AP Physics 1, just because you can get those out of the way. And if you're interested in computer science, I recommend taking AP Computer Science A. And then senior year, I recommend taking AP Literature, AP Economics. You can take either microeconomics or macroeconomics. It really is just up to you, whichever interests you more. And then along with AP Government, and again, if you're interested in computer science, AP Computer Science Principles. Now, standardized testing. As you know, you can take the ACT, the SAT, or the SAT subject tests. Some schools, most often the Ivies, will require that you have SAT 2 subject tests taken, and they will require that you send them those scores. But first, the ACT is the easier of the exams, in my opinion. The ACT consists of 4 sections: English, Math, Reading, and Science. And then there's also an optional essay portion that you can take if you want. For the English section, that primarily focuses on grammar, knowing your punctuation, when to use what types of punctuation, word choice, and stuff like that. It's fairly easy. Math is also very simple. The math section has no calculus whatsoever on it. It's primarily just algebra topics along with geometry. Reading, you'll be required to read and analyze passages, along with answering questions that will require you to have good critical thinking skills. And then the science portion is honestly fairly simple. You just read the experiments that they give you, and you answer the questions based off of the reading that you did, along with the charts and graphs that they provide. For the SAT, there are 2 sections: the writing and language section, and the math portion. Again, the math portion only has algebra and geometry topics. There's no calculus on it at all. And similar with the SAT has an optional essay portion that you can take. For the SAT 2, or the SAT subject tests, the ones listed are the tests that you can take. For biology, E/M, E focuses more on the ecology, whereas biology M will focus more on molecular structures and concepts. If you take AP Biology, this will prepare you fairly well for the biology subject tests. For chemistry, taking AP Chem will also be a good preparer for this subject test. And same with physics, taking the AP exams or the AP class for AP Physics will prepare you for the subject test. For US History and World History, you can take AP US History, which will prepare you for AP US History, but if you want to take the World History subject test, that would require self-studying on your part. For literature, taking AP Literature along with AP Language will help you with this subject test. It's a fairly difficult subject test from what I've heard, just because it requires you to have knowledge of a ton of literary works by not only American authors, but authors from various other continents as well. For Math 1 or 2, I recommend taking Math 2 just because it's much more lenient on the scoring. And what I mean by this is you can get a few more questions wrong on the Math 2 subject exam and not be penalized as much as you would be if you were to get the same number of problems wrong on the Math 1 exam. Again, these exams are primarily just algebra and geometry concepts. They're not difficult at all. Finally, for foreign languages, if you take 4 years of a language or 3 years of a language and you self-study by yourself, you should be set for these AP subject exams. That's all I have for now. So thank you for listening to my presentation.
Okay. Jacob, you're on.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Jacob Shelver by Jacob Shelver. Okay, to start, here's a little bit about me. Okay, so I went to North and then I'm going to the Columbia University in the city of New York. I'm majoring in mechanical engineering and looking to minor in economics. A few other things. I'm a presidential scholar, which is supposed to be a program in the White House with 2 delegates from each state, plus some extras for arts and career and tech ed. This year there were 161 people accepted and I was one, which basically gives me a chance to connect with a lot of fairly high up people and I get into a cool alumni network. And then National Youth Science Camp is 2 delegates from each state, plus some extras from other countries. And it's supposed to be a 3-week program in West Virginia and covers all things science, kind of similar to the Presidential Scholars Program with the Alumni Network. Also, the other North Dakota delegate who's going to MIT went to both Governor's School and Boys State with me, so the program can kind of be considered an extension of those two. And then I'm a North Dakota American Legion Eagle Scout of the Year, recipient of 9 merit-based scholarships and things like National Honor Society, National Merit Scholar, and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm here to focus on extracurriculars. They differentiate you from other applicants and can make up for any shortcomings you might have elsewhere on your resume. It was definitely the area where I stood out the most on my college scholarship and summer program applications. Don't necessarily try to go for the classic well-rounded resume, as it tends to do more harm than good. Often all the extra activities that get tacked on aren't even noticed by admissions officers, and it can dilute what you've done in your top activities. Instead, it's better to form a spike and show that you've gotten a lot out of just 1 or 2 activities, rather than a little from a wide variety of them. Stand out. Obviously, if you're going to be putting a lot of effort into this activity, it should be something you enjoy. Don't be afraid to break off from the typical script most of you probably know. It's going to be really difficult to achieve great things in an activity you don't care about, so pick something you're passionate about first and the results will follow. And then try to find a good balance between extracurriculars and schoolwork, although that can vary for each person. So as well as being a big boost to my character and general competence for reasons like these, I was able to write about how extracurriculars have helped me a lot in essays, resumes, and other applications, which made me seem like a stronger candidate overall. Almost all of my essays were about extracurriculars. I was really involved in one or two, so it was easy to find stuff to talk about that fit the prompts. Essays are a chance for you to show off your character, and here I was able to show how I was influenced by participating in things I was passionate about. So like how I got accepted into Columbia and then other cool nationwide programs. I did okay in school, got good standardized test scores, had some cool awards under my belt, wrote essays about topics that I cared about, had lots of leadership positions, showed I care about society, and that I have a plan for the future. Those last 5 points in particular are all from one extracurricular. Just like I picked one, decided to make that what my high school career would revolve around, and then went really deep in it, got all the things I needed to look good. So some of the extracurricular activities that I've been involved with during my 4 years of enrollment at Fargo North High School. I was in tennis, both in school with friends and in a men's league. I was in a music composition class and composed on my own. I also composed for various performance groups, including the school orchestra, where we got an EGC star playing one of my comps, which was pretty neat. I was in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts in elementary school, and I'm currently an Eagle Scout with 5 palms. I work at Hornbachers as a cashier and bagger, and I've been there for a little over a year. I think getting a job is one of the better things you can do if you're not sure what extracurricular to join for a few reasons. Like, it's not particularly fun and pretty much impossible to be passionate about, but it does show that you're responsible and can handle what a future work environment might look like. It also shows that you can manage your time and money and care about your future. And aside from looking good on resumes, having some extra money to spend or save is always nice. And then there's robotics. First, robotics is definitely the most important activity I've ever been involved with. And it's been the activity of choice that I've decided to work hard in. Despite being an enormous program with over 7,000 high school teams and well over 10,000 in middle school, not that many people seem to know about it in the Fargo-Moorhead area. So it's an international competition in which teams have 6 weeks to design, build, market, and compete with a robot that accomplishes a variety of challenging tasks that change every year. But the program is so much more than just a technical activity. There are sub-teams, leadership positions, scholarship opportunities, networking options, competitions, awards, and so much more. A big perk of FIRST is the amount of leadership opportunity. It's really easy to stack positions and all of them look great on resumes. This is because they show that you are prepared to change the world. You're able to cooperate with the rest of your team to come up with solutions, work with other sub-team leaders to make sure everything integrates properly, and communicate with the entire team, even those outside your region of focus, to make sure everybody knows what's going on. The leadership experience you can gain from this program is absolutely unparalleled. Being able to fill a solid half page in my application with just the positions I've held on the robotics team definitely helped my credentials. I feel like they've helped me be more ready for the future. FIRST also has hundreds of scholarship opportunities, which is pretty neat. The scholarship and alumni network is huge, and once people join, they generally want to stay involved for life. Many of our build members are local engineers that have been involved with the program for some time, and they're great at imparting info. It's a ton of fun, really, and you become a nice tight-knit group. The place where friendships really form is at competition. It's like a giant convention for nerds with 60 teams from around the region. Like at the Great Northern Regional, it was North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota primarily, but like there's other teams from Canada, California, and then we had one from China. They come from all over the world. And then it's one of the highlights of the program, and the competitions I've been to have definitely been some of my favorite high school experiences, especially with our team qualifying for the international competition in Detroit twice. When I first joined, I had no idea it was going to be this influential on me. It's taught me how to be a leader, how to work well with others, and what my life might be like in the future. I started making my own little robots this year too with the technical skills I've gained. What's probably more important to this presentation right now though is all the things I've used First for in my applications. It's eaten up a lot of space for where I had to describe my extracurriculars, and it's been my topic of focus in essays. On the Presidential Scholars application, for example, I want to say 3 or 4 out of the 7 essays I had to write focused on robotics. Like leadership and awards obviously look good, but being able to adapt all the experiences I've gotten from this program to prompts such as like challenges I've overcome, meaningful experiences, and the 7,000 character photo essay were all really helpful. And then I've been in a few other extracurriculars throughout high school, like Gov School, Boys State, Science Camp, Presidential Scholars, Science Olympiad, Knowledge Bowl, Piano, and Dungeons and Dragons Club. Okay, so I was recently asked to share my thoughts on standardized testing, even though it doesn't relate to extracurriculars at all. So I really don't think they matter all that much, honestly, and more colleges are making it clear that they don't either. Fewer and fewer are requiring it, but it's still something you'll probably have to go through for certain places. But the thing is, you don't need to put that much time into studying. I know people who attended like prep workshops, took tons and tons of practice tests, and just did whatever they could to try and get as close to a perfect score as they could. People act like standardized test scores are the make or break for getting into the school or program of their choice, but they matter a whole lot less than extracurriculars, essays, and then the general transcript. I know you guys are a smart bunch, so I don't think you should waste the time studying to try and raise your score by a point or two. On the ACT, for example, like between 34 and 36, they're all considered pretty much the same. If you look at a few practice questions to get an idea of the format, you should be able to get close to that score without really trying. So like personally, I just walked in, scored in the middle of that range, and haven't really thought about it since, and quite a few of my friends have gotten there too. But unfortunately, standardized tests will still be a part of your life, but they don't need to be a particularly important one. I don't think you should stress over them that much. So back to the central topic. In conclusion, you should focus more on 1 or 2 extracurriculars. Make sure you enjoy it, get something out of it, and develop a spike to show how involved you've been in your activity of choice. Passion about the activity is super important, so don't be afraid to pick something that's not stereotypical as long as you care about it. Extracurriculars are one of the easiest things to write about if you don't know how to respond to an essay prompt. And if you're heavily involved in something, you can adapt it to multiple prompts and reiterate how it's made you a better person. Then show off your awards and leadership because it provides a quantitative example to the reader of how good you are or how involved you've been in that extracurricular. So like for how I did this, I focused primarily on robotics, and that's where I formed my big spike that made me stand out. I had a couple lighter, less important activities like part-time work experience and Boy Scouts to round out my profile. It's been a great 3 years with the team and made trudging through high school completely worthwhile. So I've gotten all sorts of leadership experience, life skills, and new opportunities from the program. And then winning a regional as a team and reaching international levels was definitely helpful in forming that spike that made me stand out. I don't think I was involved in all that many activities compared to most people, but that was probably good because it did bring more focus to robotics. Being involved in the program allowed me to adapt to a lot of prompts more easily and show off the character that I've gained from it. And of course, being able to fill so much space with awards and leadership I've gained from the program was good too. All in all, robotics is what both my high school experience and college and program applications were based around, and it's been the main reason I got accepted into them. So thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best of luck on your college journey. I think that is later.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I was on mute. Okay, Marvin is our last speaker, and he's at the lake right now. He will try to join us for Q&A. But just in case the signal was not good enough, so he prepared the video also. Here we go. Marvin's
Hello, my name is Marvin Tian, and I'll be talking about extracurriculars. So here's a quick introduction about me. I'll be attending the Georgia Institute of Technology next year for mechanical engineering and possibly a minor in Spanish. And the high school I went to is Davies High School. So here's a list of my extracurriculars. Kind of give you guys a moment to look through this if you'd like. The ones I spend the most time on are first robotics. And I also did various other ones like Science Olympiad, some math club, a lot of music. And then I also did other activities, a lot of which were summer activities such as governor's school. I also did like All-State. I went on the Spain trip. So a big question is why extracurriculars? So the big thing is that it helps you explore your interests and passions. I mean, high school is the time to kind of learn what you're passionate about, what your interests are, what you want to do. And through extracurriculars, you can learn a lot of that. In addition, it makes you stand out. Admissions officers have a lot of applications to go through. So any way that you can show that you have something specific, like a talent, it will do you a lot of good in your application. So here's kind of a quick extracurricular breakdown, and I'll give a couple of my insights and experiences. When it comes to science and math, Science Olympiad is a really big one. This is, of course, good if you're interested in STEM careers. It helps you with various skills such as like preparing, studying information. So that's one of the categories there are. There's also like application tasks where you learn a skill and you apply that. And then there's also build, which is the part I was involved in. So here you see depicted like a robotic arm and a helicopter. Again, this is a good activity if you are interested in this STEM field. Okay, so engineering was my like major related activity. For everyone, it'll be different. Some people might be a art or music or various other things. First, robotics, it's a must if you want to go into engineering. The level of competition in first robotics is very hard to find in comparison to any other high school activity. This was indeed the majority of my time, but ultimately it was worth it. Again, it is a must if you want to go into engineering. However, if you don't want to go into engineering, there's still other things in first robotics or the first program that are really good. So, of course, there's mechanical engineering, there's electrical, industrial. There's also computer science. We do a good deal of coding in here. Also business. Business is a huge part of first robotics. So we have a marketing team, and you work with real companies in real life to get real money to work on actual projects. So it's nothing like any other high school activity you'll ever be able to find. Also like graphics, like t-shirt design, websites, stuff like that. There's literally like room for every passion, and you will learn skills you cannot in a classroom. Okay, music. So throughout high school, I played viola and banjo towards the end. Since I applied for engineering colleges, this was the smallest part of my application. However, you can make this as big or as small as a part as you would like. Personally, I focused more on the build and engineering aspect. So I did this purely for enjoyment. The biggest takeaway that I would say through my musical experience is you can make anything work. For example, at my school, nobody played banjo. So I taught myself banjo. I learned that. And then I was still able to get like awards and activities and stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. Like, for example, I still got a state star rating at EDC, and I did like cabaret band, and I did F maze with banjo, and I went tour with the chamber orchestra. So the biggest thing I would say is that if you have an interest in something, you can make it work. So hobbies. This is a topic that a lot of people skim over and feel like is not very important towards like what you should spend your time with, but personally it was. Like hobbies are a valid way to spend your time. You should do the things you enjoy because it is important to find that passion in high school because that's how you're going to stand out in your application. So for me, my hobbies were the largest part of my application. So, I mean, personally, the building robots and engineering aspect was huge, but I also do music and fishing, and I was all able to incorporate that into things I sent to colleges. So for example, this is one of my projects I did. This is a robot that hands out candy on Halloween. So through this, I was able to show like the design process and how I'm able to integrate engineering into my life. And I wrote about this in my essay. I taught myself how to weld. This shows my passion in building and how I do this outside of school. Like I'm self-taught in welding. Like CAD, I still use CAD at home. It's not like just something I limit to school use. So to reiterate, hobbies are definitely something you should explore because it'll lead you to find who you are and what you should focus on in your application. Okay, and when it comes to athletics, yeah, so the point is I didn't do any athletics that I put in my college application. Yeah, I threw javelin and discus and track and field my first year, but ultimately it wasn't a huge part. So a common misconception people have is that you really do not need to be well-rounded. Like there's always that model of a well-rounded student that does sports, academics, music, this is everything. Ultimately, you do not need that. Like you really do not need an extracurricular in every activity. You should be exploring your interests. Extracurriculars are where you find out who you are and what you want to do. So spend your time wisely, find out who you are. No need to try to be a well-rounded, like ideal student because they're not looking for that. They see too many of that in the application process. So it's better to be good at one thing and stand out than it is to just do everything and be okay. So as the image on the right shows, again, the people who read your application, they read through so many, it's hard to remember. So being able to stand out and show yourself is very important. So here's a few big takeaways. I know this is a cliche, but truly follow your dreams. Your passion should be leading the way, not like awards or anything like that, because ultimately you will get those doing what you like. You should be unique. Remember, you are you. Nobody else is going to be exactly like you. It is okay and recommended to follow your own path. Just because you see someone do one thing and get awards and that doesn't mean that's what will fit you. So again, doing what you like will let you stand out. Okay, to be real, remember there is affirmative action. You will be competing against people who are similar to you. For those unfamiliar, in the Chinese community, the truth is a lot of colleges compare Chinese students to other Chinese students. So you will want to find ways to stand out basically. That's what they look for. And then continue activities through all 4 years. That also stands out. It shows perseverance and commitment, which colleges really like. And remember, you can make anything work. Like if you have passion in it, you should just do it. You can put practically anything on a college application. Like if anyone wants tips about my specific essay for whatever reason, I'm not going to necessarily like post it on here, but if you want to contact me, I can tell you, and like find what is right for you. Everyone's going to be different. So just find out what you like and you'll do fine. And then one last topic, this one is leadership. I highlighted in yellow the leadership positions I had. As you can see, there's quite a bit. Leading does make you stand out. They want to see leaders. So if you can and you have a club you're good at, try to lead in it. Try to be the president, or in my case, like a lead engineer or something like that. And then have fun. 4 years, it's going to go by really quick. Make the most out of your time. Do not be afraid to try new things. And for those of you still in middle school, try as much as you can during that time. Like, it's better to figure out what you like and build off of that. And you'll make a lot of friends, and a lot of your good friends will come from your activities. So make the most out of your 4 years. So ultimately, all I have to leave you guys with is good luck. I know you guys will all do great. Just work hard, and this will be over really soon. So cherish every moment.
Okay, well, all the presentations are done. Are you ready to lead the discussion?
Sure.
Let's go ahead, get started.
Are we just going to start with the questions in the email?
Sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might want to share your desktop so everybody can see the question, if that's convenient.
I'll just put it in the chat. It's probably better that way. So the first question, I'll just give everybody a moment to read it. Okay, for me, I think there's two different reasons to take the SAT. First one is if you want to get the National Merit Scholarship, you have to take the SAT. And secondly, it distinguishes you from a lot of different applicants, specifically from North Dakota, because like North Dakota generally only offers the ACT. Wait, is anybody else going to answer?
Okay, I can answer for me. In middle school, I did Science Olympiad. Like, I just tried it out, which is kind of funny now because what I'm doing is not related to science at all. But it just shows, I feel like in middle school, don't feel any pressure. Honestly, I think in middle school, just try as many clubs as you can, because that's the time where it doesn't really affect college admissions, and it's a time where you can explore your interests, maybe find out more about what that club will look like in high school, for example, like Science Olympiad or different music clubs.
Wait, so are we just having a single person answer each question? Okay, that's probably reasonable. Someone want to answer Rick's question?
I guess there shouldn't really be a limit. Like if you're making a decision between like APs and normal classes, just go for AP. Like they're harder, but also the teachers generally curve your grade and stuff. So like your grade should stay around the same if that's what you're concerned about. The workload's not that bad, and it's kind of just like APs are more lecture based while normal classes are more project based. And APs look better, so I'd say go for that as much as possible.
If you want a solid number, I'm just going to go ahead and say 8.
Well, if you're talking like APs, I mean, personally, I felt like 4 a year, although at first, no pressure to like take on a whole bunch at first if you're just figuring that out.
Okay, let's go into Amy's question. Do you have any tips for researching colleges if I have not decided a major? I'd say listen to the advice of like people who are actually in college. That's probably like the most reasonable advice. If you just look on forums online, you could probably see people who just like recently graduated.
Yeah, I think part of that, like for me, I felt a little overwhelmed with like deciding which colleges to look at. So I think one of the easiest things to narrow things down is by location or by size. So for example, I knew I wanted to go to a bigger college in a bigger city. and that really narrowed down a lot of colleges. And then from there, you can kind of group them into like selectivity. So yeah, I would say like first location / size, and then selectivity.
Aaron asked where we're gonna live during freshman year. Short answer, who knows? I'll be on campus first semester for sure. Who knows about second semester? Okay, anybody else gonna answer that?
In the dorm.
Great answer, great answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, every college is kind of different, but typically at colleges on your first year, you'll live in a dorm. And then second year, a lot of people get apartments and stuff. But of course, that's for like distant colleges. I know some colleges right now are encouraging people to stay home just because COVID, but if you're wondering about dorms, for the most part, people stay in dorms their first year.
Okay, looks like we don't have any questions in the chat. Let's take a couple of the pre-prepared ones. Jacob, you want to answer this one?
Sure. Let's see. I know I started piano from a really young age. Like, basically, you can spend your entire childhood just experimenting. From what I've heard, like, all the stuff you do K-12 doesn't matter all that much. So, like, now first Lego League, first Tech Challenge, first robotics is all a thing. So, like, I would highly recommend everybody go down that route. You can do that your entire school career. If you want to be a music major, you can do, like, music the entire time. But, like, don't be afraid to try new things. I think don't be pressured into like doing things just because others do them. Just like pick things you think are cool and try them out, see if you like them or not.
Also, if you're talking about like your childhood, I would definitely say hobbies are very important during that time. Like for me, a lot of like the majority of my application that I put was regarding the same hobbies I've developed since like I was really young. So if you happen to have something like that, I would recommend exploring that. So for me, that was engineering and building stuff. So if you do show that from a young age, I would recommend continuing with that.
I think the harder things to like pick up later on is sports, because like you kind of just need to be like exercising your whole life if you want to really get into sports. And also with music, a lot of people start music really young and it's kind of hard to catch up. Okay.
Could you please make sure to read aloud those questions before any of you would answer? This way to help audience to understand which question is answered. Okay.
Sure. Let's go to Rick's question then. What are the factors to choose your major?
I would say your personal, if you do happen to have an interest, I mean, I would say pick a major that appeals to your interest because you're going to work better in something you're interested in.
Interest is definitely like number one, but like the second thing would be like job opportunities / potential income, because like majoring in like Middle Eastern studies might not be the best for your future. Okay, next question from Eric. How would or could counselors help you during high school? Anybody want to comment on their experiences with counselors?
I would say personally, like,
Go ahead.
Okay. Just like in high school, your interaction with for me, I think, and for a lot of people, like your interaction with your counselor is pretty surface level. They have like 200 students that they kind of oversee. The big thing is that you'll need, a lot of times they'll help write like a letter of recommendation for colleges, or they'll write like a school overview. And so it's good to like maintain contact with them and kind of update them on your accomplishments or different activities you're in. That way in the future, when they write different recommendation letters, it just kind of comes in handy.
Jacob, you want to provide some input as well?
Sure. Feel like I use my counselor a lot. Like two of the big things, I'm pretty terrible with time management. So like I was just able to work with her to like devise a schedule that would work a little better with me. And then also I knew where I wanted to go to an Ivy League, what I wanted to major in, but I didn't really know how to get there. So like I met with her a lot to just map out a path that would work better for me. So if you're not sure where to go, counselors are generally a good resource.
Okay, I'll quickly answer Selena's questions about like how to get around if you have classes in different locations. Simple answer, driving. Okay, next question. Would it be beneficial to start preparing the Common App during the summer before junior year?
Wait, actually, could I go back to Selena's question?
Yeah,
Just
sure.
have like something to add. Okay, so like for example, my senior year, I took like a French class at NDSU, just because I had taken Spanish at school and there wasn't room in my schedule to take French. So if you're considering taking classes at colleges, it is like a big, like you need like to save like a big chunk of time in your normal schedule. So for example, this year I had 3 offs. So I had 5 classes. I attended 1 class at NDSU, and then I also took AP US History online. So like alternative classes, I think that this question is getting to, whether it's at a college or online, are definitely an option. But I think be careful about taking a class at a college, just because it's a big time commitment driving there every day. And also usually the credits don't transfer. And honestly, they're valued about the same as AP credits, I would say, in the eyes of a lot of colleges. So it doesn't make that much of a difference.
I'll add a little bit to that. I only had 4 classes during my first semester, so I was really only able to take like college classes before or like after school, basically. So I had one class at 4. I had one class at 8 and one class at like 4:15. Okay, let's return to the question at hand, which is, would it be beneficial to start preparing a Common App during the summer before junior year? Marvin or Jacob?
Personally, I feel like just of course working hard and I mean doing things that are productive is already in a way preparing. But I wouldn't say you have to like start writing your essay or anything. Of course, it doesn't hurt to look through it, know what kind of things they're looking for, know what the categories are. But other than that, I would say use those summers as a time to gain experience, do activities that you could put on your essay. But I wouldn't say you have to necessarily start writing by then. But of course, it doesn't hurt to start thinking.
Okay, let's go into Eric's question. Should extracurriculars be tailored to your ideal major? Jacob, want to take this one?
Yeah. Like to an extent, you got to do the stuff like you care about, but they do have to be tailored. Yeah. Like if you want to go into like down a pre-med track and then you're in show choir, chamber orchestra, and JCL, like that's not gonna look too great on your application. You just got to tailor it to your strengths, and like something like first robotics would be good for engineering or like business or management or really any of those, but like try and pick activities that at least loosely relate to your major so that you can show that you've been thinking about your future at this age.
Also,
Yeah,
I might go ahead.
No, Alan, go ahead.
I was just gonna add that like people generally don't decide on a major till like they actually get to college. So I don't think it's really necessary to like hardwire yourself into like a single subject or major right now.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I think it is hard to know what you're doing. I think one of the biggest factors is after you're exploring sometime during high school, you do have to start like limiting your options in a sense and diving deeper into the ones that you've chosen. So by the time that you're in like mid-high school, consistency is really important and commitment. So making sure that you have a couple activities that you've been in for a long time, even if they're kind of random. And another thing is like to not stress if maybe your activities didn't really tie in with your major, because first of all, colleges know that you're very likely to change your major, and that's actually an opportunity for you to write about in your essays, to explain kind of your mindset. And if you do that well, it can show that you're thinking deeply and you're keeping your options open.
All right, let's go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you're totally fine. Ultimately, like, I mean, to put it briefly, if you don't know what you want to do, don't stress about it. Dive into something you feel like you do well, that you can accomplish in. But if you do know what you want to do, definitely tailor or I would say just do extracurriculars that follow that.
All right, next question is on standardized tests. What are the pros and cons of taking the essay section of the ACT and SAT? I think the biggest reason to take them is that it looks weird if you don't take them, because like the essay section is like kind of free, and like the college is to ask why if you don't take it.
Yeah, I would say just take it. Like, it's not that much extra preparation in between if you're taking both the SAT and the ACT, which you probably will. Like, preparation for the essay section is kind of the same. Well, it's pretty similar. So I would just say take it.
If you take stuff like AP, I think it's AP Lang that year, they will already be preparing you for that stuff. So
Mhm.
like, for example, I didn't do any specific prep and scored really high on the essay. So if you are taking like AP Lang, you're already being prepared. So I'd just go for it.
All right, let's go on to the next question. What is the benefit of AP classes if a lot of the Ivy League colleges don't transfer the credits?
You can self-report APs on a lot of applications, so it is another place to show. But also like the colleges, because the AP classes, like not just the test, but the class itself is usually hard, like significantly harder. So if you can show that you have consistent good grades in AP classes, it looks good. It helps you get into the college, even if you don't get credit when you go there.
Yeah, I think there's two major reasons here. Firstly is that like it shows that you're interested within something. Like if you're interested in physics, you should definitely take AP physics. Otherwise, it just looks weird. And secondly, like everybody else takes AP exams, so you're kind of at a disadvantage if you don't. All right. Next question, is it necessary to both take the ACT and SAT? It's not necessary, but like people like me may choose to, because like if you prepare for one, you've basically prepared for the other as well, and it does boost your application ever so slightly.
And another thing, I guess, that I thought of is for scholarships. A lot of sometimes they might ask for like the ACT or the SAT, and it never hurts to have like 2 good scores on there, just as something that boosts your application.
Okay, I think we're out of questions, so let's.
No, Alan, there are 2 more questions you missed 2 more in the Q&A session. Chen.
Oh, never mind. Okay, how many credits is ideal per semester?
Well, I mean, I think so if you're, yeah, so I would say it depends on how involved you are outside of school. But for example, my first 2 years, I did all 8 classes, like no opens, although I would recommend having an open as a time to make up tests. I mean, I never had more than one open throughout high school, and I felt like it was fine. You do want one to make up tests, and if you're missing a lot of school, having more opens is good. But I would say 7.
Yeah,
If
to kind
your
of
school offers 8 credits, of course.
Yeah, I would agree with Marvin. And it also depends on how many AP tests you're taking. So for example, like my junior year, I had two off periods, but I also took 6 AP exams. So kind of keep that in mind, especially during the spring, because studying for AP exams, especially if you have a lot of them, is a big time commitment. But otherwise, like for my freshman and sophomore year, I had no offs and I felt fine. I wasn't in debate, which I've heard you miss a lot of school for, or sometimes sports. But if you're pretty like efficient with your time, honestly, I think freshman and sophomore year, 8 is pretty manageable.
One other thing to consider is to take a period or 2 off in like your senior year first semester to focus on your application. Okay, let's just move on to the next question. Is it beneficial to take a foreign language all 4 years?
I would say if you do start a foreign language, going through it with all 4 years is a good thing. Of course, if you're talking about learning a language, of course it's beneficial. But if you're talking just in terms of colleges, it is also beneficial because they want to see you can persevere and be committed to something. Because they don't want to see students that give up or stop something after a few years. So I would say if you can, continue all 4 years.
I think it's best to take either 2 or 4 years, because like 3 is kind of just that middle area where you're like kind of committed but not super committed. So you don't get like the time benefit, and you also don't get like the benefit to show stuff on your application. Okay. Difficult question from Pan. What mistake you made in your high school / college application, if there was one, or one thing you wish would go back to change?
For me, junior year, it was definitely like I was trying to do both science Olympiad and robotics at the same time. It's definitely doable, but like I think my biggest regret from all of high school is not going to the world's competition, because like we qualified the first year the team was a thing, sophomore year, and like I went there, had a blast with the team for a solid week in Detroit. And then the next year, like I kind of did all the build events for my school's science Olympiad team, and I felt I could help more there than at Worlds. So I just like made a video for the climb assembly and stuff. But like I really regret not going and just like pushing that one activity that I was involved with further. Like trying to diversify is not a good idea, I don't think.
I would say for me, like, I probably could have started the Common App earlier, or like school-specific essays earlier, because I ended up, like, it gets really stressful in the fall. And then also, like, I mean, this maybe isn't academic, but I feel like I was so busy writing essays that my fall semester of my senior year, I missed out on a lot of, like, last activities. So it's like a social thing.
Yeah. Ultimately, I feel like there's going to be, like from my experience, people either say they wish they did more academics or they wish they did more social things. Ultimately, I'd say, just work hard and you'll get through it. I definitely didn't start doing as much social things until senior year, but ultimately I think it's fine. Just have fun, but work hard.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Marvin. I can't really pinpoint a single mistake. It's more about just I could have been more efficient. I could have done more stuff in general. All right. Next question. Is it a good idea to take more than one foreign language?
I mean, I guess I can kind of speak to this because I did go to NDSU to take French my senior year. I think this, not really, unless you're planning on going into language. Like, I guess that's the bottom line answer. So, I mean, it shows commitment, but really it's only worth it, like I said, if you're interested in languages or if you're interested in a major like international relations, interested in working internationally. Another thing, I guess for a lot of us, since we do speak Chinese, you can show that you have like an extra language in addition to the one you studied in school through the SAT subject tests, which is what I did.
I know one classmate I had that took both French and Latin, and it really didn't really work out for him. He ended up having to take Latin 3 in senior year, which didn't really work out. So I don't think you should try to take more than one foreign language. All right, next question. What is the biggest thing you would avoid while applying to college? If I don't want to point to somebody as an example, but I think the biggest issue that people here make is not putting enough on the application. This might be true. Okay, I'll just call out Isaac Spanger. No, not Isaac Spanger, Isaac Weintraub. He didn't put enough on his application, which is what I believe is probably the biggest reason that his application, he didn't get into as good of a school as he wished to have, even though he had like stellar academics and stellar extracurriculars as well. So just try to put a lot of stuff on your application because you're going to be competing with the best of the best.
I guess another thing is to not forget about recommendations, which basically means like forming connections with teachers and like club advisors, because those recommendations can really boost your application. And so don't be afraid to like reach out to teachers, or it doesn't have to be like artificial, like, oh, we should meet after school today, but it's more just like being involved in class, asking questions, to make sure that you're not forgetting about the recommendation aspect.
Yeah, don't ever be afraid to talk to your teachers because they're there to help you. Like for me, I made sure I talked to like basically all the teachers I've had, just like if I have any questions, and they appreciate you reaching out to them. So don't ever feel like they'll be annoyed. You'll find that some of the teachers you have a better connection with the rest, and that is absolutely okay and expected because those are the teachers you ask for recommendations from.
I think you should also try to have a decent, you should try to at least focus on having a good connection with your junior year teachers, because those are generally the teachers you end up asking recommendation letters from. Because in like senior year, you've only had your teacher for like 3 months. They're not going to get to know you that well. All right, next question is, which is the superior language, French or Latin? Okay, I'm gonna put it right here that I actually think Latin is overrated. Like, a lot of people say that like Latin is helpful. I haven't found it helpful like for any other subject. Like, if you're really interested in the classics, totally go for it. Latin's a great subject. It can be interesting like of its own right. But I don't think Latin is helpful for studying anything else. So if you're not like interested within the classics like by itself, I really wouldn't suggest Latin.
I personally thought Spanish was a fantastic option because, I mean, 21 countries speak it and you can apply it so often. So like applying it to daily life is really good. Joanna, you took Spanish and French, so you can probably speak better on this topic. But
I mean, in the eyes of college admissions, they're pretty much all equal. It just depends on how much you invest yourself. But I can't pick a favorite. Yeah, I would say, well, it depends. Actually, if they all kind of like, you don't really care which language you start with, something to look at is your high school, like the teacher. For example, like at Davies, our Spanish teacher is really, really just a great teacher. And if they're all kind of the same to you, you can choose one where the teacher has really great reviews. And so like, that could also help with recommendations. For example, my Spanish teacher wrote me a recommendation and I had her for 3 years. And so I don't know, if that helps you make a decision.
All right, this will probably be a quick question. Which GPA score is ideal?
unweighted or weighted?
Oh, unweighted, it's probably a 4.0. I don't think it's that difficult to get a 4.0. About 10% of all students get it, so just try to be in the top 10%. In terms of weighted, 4.2 is probably pretty good.
Ultimately, two things to note is that yes, you will, like everyone you compete against in these competitive colleges will have like straight A's and stuff like that. But also your grades are just one list on the application. So don't feel like you absolutely have no chance if you got like 1 or 2 like bad grades or less than an A. Some people consider that like a bad grade, but you know. So yes, having all A's is good, but don't feel like you're absolutely destroyed if you don't.
Yeah, this is especially true for like freshman year, because a lot of colleges actually just don't look at freshman year grades at all because it's like so far in the past. All right, next question. What career exploring activities did you do that were helpful?
I'll just say one last thing. Yeah, robotics. I found that to be really different. If you're doing STEM, do robotics because ultimately the hands-on factor you can't get anywhere else, or you won't get the level you will in first robotics. So just speaking to those people who want to be engineers, or like I mean, there's everything in first. I would definitely recommend that, although it is a big time commitment, it is worth it in my eyes.
Yeah, I'd say like, I don't know, I didn't really do that many career exploring activities. It was more just like what I did within my clubs. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So like, for example, like I started a nonprofit, which really helped me decide, oh, business is interesting. But I wouldn't really stress about figuring out your career because that'll really just come with your interest. And even then, like you can just apply undecided too. So.
For me, it was mostly my summer programs. Like I went to the summer science program last year and we went to visit a pharmaceutical industry. And it was at that moment that I decided I do not want to go into chemistry. So yeah, it was pretty helpful, but you probably won't get an opportunity like that. So it's probably helpful to like talk to people who actually have their career. I don't think I'll just skip that question. If high schools don't offer AP Chinese, would it help your application to take the AP exam? I suppose this would apply for the SAT too as well. I didn't take either, and I didn't really think it mattered that much, but Joanna might have a different answer.
Yeah, personally, I think it doesn't really matter in our situation. It doesn't matter that much because they know that if you're bilingual, like if you grew up in a household speaking Chinese, like it doesn't really show much for you to take the test. But like the one thing is if you're showing an interest in language. So for example, that's why I had like 3 different languages I was studying. So I did include Chinese with that. But otherwise, I mean, you're bilingual anyways, so it doesn't really show the college that much new about you.
All right, next question. Will it be beneficial to gain experience in research labs through outreach programs or camps for college applications? I think I could probably comment on this. I think it's definitely beneficial to like work in a research lab. I think it just like helps you gain insight into like the research process, but like ultimately not that many people go into research as a career, but like it's heavily stressed as like a extracurricular for high schoolers for some reason that I still don't really know, but I think it's definitely beneficial for both you as well as your application. All right, we got a question about video games. Do you play video games intensely and how does it impact your high school performance? I'll say right now that I don't think it impacts performance at all. Like it probably has the same impact that like social activities do. So I don't think like video games are something to be villainified or like something that are evil. Anybody else want to comment on that or no? Okay, we got a question about the French teacher at Davies. Did you take French, Joanna?
No, but I can kind of speak about it. The French teacher is nice. There's 2 main ones that you'll have. The upper level French teacher is kind of scary and intimidating, but like she's a good teacher. One interesting thing though is about Davies French. I'll just be brief on this. But Davies French, it moves really slowly. So for example, in Spanish, we had learned all of the grammar concepts by the end of junior year. And I took 1 year of French at the college, and I was learning the same thing as the people in French 3 were learning. So it like the pacing is really odd. So like that being said, it's important if you want to like actually learn French at Davies to take all 4 years, because the 4th year you learn a ton of new information.
I've heard a lot of complaints from the French students, but they still think they like the class. So yeah. All right. Let's pull some questions from the backup list. This is probably something that all of us should answer. What are 3 things you believe all high school students should know? We might just make this one thing because I don't think I can think about 3 things.
Yeah. Okay, I guess mine would be open-minded. So even when you're doing extracurriculars, like for example, I was really involved in music and I kind of knew that I wouldn't major in it, but within music, I found a way for me to explore other areas, like with the youth symphony serving on the board of directors or with music creating a nonprofit spreading music. So keep your options open. I feel like never feel like there's no chance to rebound or something. There's always I don't know. There's always options. Just don't feel limited.
On a similar vein, I would say that I think you can learn something from everybody. Like I've always kind of doubted the opinions of sports people because they're sports people, but I was on a tennis team and a lot of them actually have some pretty interesting thoughts and ideas that I think is worth for everyone to listen to. Jacob, you have any comments on this?
I guess my thing is that what you do in high school doesn't really matter as soon as you get out of high school. So like use it as a time to experiment, make mistakes and learn from them. Like maybe you'll find out something about yourself you didn't know.
Yeah, college is basically like the start of your actual life. High school is like life tutorial. Okay. Eric asks, how important are sports in the application? What if you can't really get any awards in sports? Did either of you do sports? I don't remember.
Not really in high school. I did dance, but I never mentioned that.
Jacob, you want to comment? I think you did track, right?
I guess I did tennis. Like just being on varsity, I guess, like is something that you can put down. I know in North Dakota, like there isn't really any school that's great at tennis. Like Grand Forks they are, but their schools have not many people. It's like varsity shouldn't be that hard of an achievement, at least for tennis. I can't speak for other sports on that, but like it's something like as long as you're involved with it, you should put it down, even if you don't get any awards.
I think you could treat sports as basically any other application. I know Gary Wu won like from Grand Forks, he won like the state tennis tournament, and then he got into Harvard. So I think that was a part that contributed to his application that way, but it's definitely not necessary. Okay, let's go on to Selena's question. Do you do anything specific for getting your things in between classes? How do you use your free time and when do you have it?
Okay, so I feel like what this is kind of pointing to is just like general time management. I think one thing is like little pockets of time can add up to be a lot. For example, if you have 5 minutes at the end of class, or if you have like 10 minutes before you have to leave to go to some activity, like make like actually use those 10 minutes and try and do something with it. Or like especially at the end of class, if you have like 5 minutes, sometimes you can actually just get things done. And so just don't neglect those little spaces of time.
I don't think you actually have enough time like between classes. That's mostly my bathroom break. But yeah, Joanna's definitely right. I think if you make an active commitment to finishing your homework before the end of every school day, it's reasonable for you to do so. Like I feel a lot of people don't finish their homework because they just start talking in class when they're given work time. Jacob, you want to comment on this?
I was one of those people who talked in class instead of using work time, but like I don't know. It's not that big of a deal, I don't think.
What do you do to conquer your procrastination? I don't think I have conquered my procrastination, but I try to set deadlines for myself. I try. Keyword try.
I feel like this is tough because I feel like all of us suffer sometimes greatly from procrastination. But I think if possible, it's a habit, like it's something you develop over time. Like for me, I don't think it got me that much because first of all, I really value sleep. So I never pull all-nighters because I'm really weak if I can't get 8 hours of sleep. And second of all, like if just kind of start early, like freshman, sophomore year, it's not stressful. Like it honestly just isn't that stressful. So if you can develop good habits freshman and sophomore year, it'll help you like continue those as you go on. Like I feel like this is hard to act on, this piece of advice, but honestly I think that's how it helped me. So just don't.
Also, like try to understand what you need to get done because people always underestimate what needs to be done. Like always. Jacob?
Actually, oh sorry. Yeah, Jacob, what's yours?
I guess one thing that helped, and just like as soon as you get an assignment, try and take a big chunk out of it. Because like if you push everything to the last minute, you might realize that you've bit off more than you can chew. Then you have to go pull an all-nighter, which is never good the next day. Like caffeine can only do so much.
Yeah.
All right, next question. How do you value the importance of volunteering work? To be honest, I think volunteering is mostly important for one big thing, which is like scholarships, because everybody likes to give scholarships to nice people and nice people volunteer. So if you really value like getting scholarships and stuff, then it's great to do volunteering that way. I don't think volunteering is like super necessary to getting into college. I know a couple people who did absolutely no volunteering and still did great in college admissions. I think it should be treated as another extracurricular, but it definitely can be really good for like your application if you can have a really strong narrative around your volunteering work. Joanna could probably talk about this better than I can.
No, I think you said it well. I guess for timing, if you're younger, I would suggest like volunteering, planning to volunteer more your freshman and sophomore year if you have time. Like I said, there's not that much other things, so that's a great time to get in those volunteering hours for scholarships later, because they usually ask about your volunteering hours over high school. But I would say it's not that important. It's kind of just a great way to like hang out with friends, and you might discover some sort of insight that you can later write about in your essays.
Jacob, did you ever do much volunteering?
Most of it was tied to either Boy Scouts or robotics. Like, I didn't really do any of that on my own, but like, if you do have friends in Key Club, I'd recommend you join that, or like National Honor Society. Like, if you can make volunteering fun and just like a time to hang out with friends, it's a great resume booster, I think, because yeah, people do like nice people that volunteer.
Patrick asks for study tips. I think this is like really based on how you want to study. So I don't know if my advice applies to you. Like my way of studying is always to do like practice questions or practice exams, but that's not necessarily correct for everybody.
I guess classes wise, so like not standardized testing. I think a big thing actually is to stay focused in the class. So for example, what I used to do like in freshman, sophomore year, I would like when the teacher was talking, I wouldn't think it was that interesting. So I'd like work on homework from other classes. But then I wasn't really involved in my homework and I wasn't really listening to what the teacher had said. And so I feel like honestly, it saves more time if you're just listening to what the teacher says, because then later when you do the homework, it just comes by quicker. You actually retain the information better. So that would be my tip.
I actually took a completely different route. I found listening to lectures like less and less productive as high school went on, but to each their own. Everybody has their own study habits. Don't listen to just one person. Jacob?
I'm generally a big visual learner, so I just found that like reading from the textbook is pretty helpful. Also, like Alan, I didn't really pay attention in class, so like just learning from the textbook was kind of how I went around, but like it depends more on the individual person and learning style than what any of us say, I'd say.
Okay, how do you handle group projects? What's your experience with them or the lessons learned? I think the biggest thing about group projects is dividing the work early. It gives it minimizes the amount of time you need to plan, and like basically it gives everybody something to do. And also like if your project goes badly at the end because your teammates didn't do something, you can clearly point out that to your teacher and like salvage your grade.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of times where you can just pick your partners. So pick your partners just wisely. I mean, like you know your friends. You know who's actually gonna like do stuff and who's just gonna provide some entertainment during class. So honestly, like you usually have control.
Okay. With COVID plaguing the following school year, it's difficult to go out and be active like we all would normally. How exactly do we make impacts within the community and school life with this huge obstacle? Online events. Look at what we are doing right now. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you can take this as like an opportunity to learn a new skill, learn a new language, like actually, or do like independent research since now we are just more independent. Yeah, you could use this to kind of explore your curiosity in academics, but like in a strategic way. And that way, it shows that you're curious. It shows that you're dedicated to spending your time in the pursuit of knowledge. So yeah.
So one more thing, if you're not doing biology or chemistry, which like require an actual lab, you can go bother like a university professor and like have them point you to something to do, because their advice is going to be way better than any of ours. And you could actually get like a research thing with them, which is really good for you as well as really good for your application. Okay, I guess that's all of the questions for today. We probably don't want to drag this too long. I'm probably not the best person to do a closing statement, but thank you all for being here. Thank you everybody for organizing, as well as providing comments about how to succeed in high school.
Thank you, Alan, Joanna, and Jacob. Of course, Martin and Cindy for being the leaders really of our workshop. And Chunji, also for your hard work throughout the entire process. Again, I hope everybody has learned quite a bit. Okay, if you have any feedback, please go ahead, reply the email Chunji sent you when you registered, or anyhow, if you want, send your feedback to Chunji, Wulong, Qiujun, or myself. Or I see that our president of the UCAFM is also here, Helen Yang. Yang Zhehui. Okay, I think this meeting has been very productive, and we hope this will go on every year. Thank you all very much for your participation as well, especially, of course, the speakers. Again, congratulations on your achievements so far, and we all believe you will go even farther. Okay, thank you all. That's the end of the meeting.